What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the crazy show. With me today, I have Joel from Retro Lizard. Well,
What's up?
Retro Lizards. Wait, you have to say it because now I'm just going to screw it up.
It's not even a tongue twister. What's up, guys? I'm Joel from Retro Lizards Custom Arcades, Retro Lizard for short, or just Lizard.
There you go. Well, it's like when I had John on here, and he was like, his business title is like the VP of business directing audio samples, blah, blah, blah. It's like this hugely long title. It's like once I try to say it one time and don't, I'm like, uh oh, I'm screwed. This
Just
is
screw
not
the
going to
whole
end
thing up.
well. Yeah.
Right.
Um, but, anyways, to everyone in the chat, thanks for joining us. And it should be a fun show. Like, so basically, we kind of were talking about this before the show, but we're going to talk about a myriad of things. We're going to talk about kind of definitely what Joel does and how he got into that, and just kind of share our thoughts on arcade stuff, basically like gaming and arcade stuff. And he has to tell me more about all of his awesome console kiosks that he gets. So, but yeah, I mean, go ahead and kind of let everybody know like what it is that you do and how you got into that.
So I'm Joel. I'm Retro Lizard. I own Retro Lizards Custom Arcades. I do exactly what the title says. I build custom arcades. That's two players, four players, sit-down racers, linked racers, light gun multicades, virtual pinballs, and it's weird to say that I'm the only guy possibly in the world, but definitely at least in the United States, that's selling a Guitar Hero multicade.
Hmm.
Um, so I also do the DIY. I also have stuff for the DIY guys. I sell individual external drives that you can also pull out of the drive and put internally if you desire that. I sell pre-configured PCs. Um, I have light gun combos with Gun for IR. I got a bunch of stuff. I have Batacera builds. I have stuff on Arcade Punks that I put out to the community to do like a give back, because I don't want to make money off of everybody, but so we put free things out there on Arcade Punks for people to download for free and
Hmm.
enjoy.
Hmm.
I am the only person. Well, it's weird to say that I'm the only person, but I'm probably the only person who put a light gun build out there on Arcade Punks for the Sendin. That's plug and play
Oh,
with
I've seen
Batacera.
that. I've seen that on
Yeah,
there.
and I guess that really helped the community out there with the Sending gun and being able to use that gun just flawlessly by just plugging it in and using it. Um, so yeah, so I mean, I build custom arcades, and then aside from custom arcades, I collect video games and kiosks.
Yeah.
Like behind you, Sheila, you got a plethora of arcades that you got there, and instead of me staring at arcades all day and all night, I just get kiosks, and I like those. That's my thing right there.
Dude, those are rad though. Like if I could have one kiosk, it would probably have to be like a Dreamcast kiosk. I think would be the one that I would want.
I got it.
I know. I've seen. By the way, he's on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, um, go check his TikTok out. We can put a link in the chat here in a little bit. Um, because he puts like reels of his kiosks and we'll just do like random cool stuff on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, his TikTok's really cool, and TikTok is like super like dumb right now. It was like it used to be really good and the algorithm was like fair, and now it's like it doesn't matter what you do, they're like f off, you
The
know.
algorithm just changes so much.
Oh,
You
it's
know,
so bad.
The one thing I can't get rid of on my feed is pimples. I can't get rid of the pimple popping on my feed at all. And it's like
Mm.
as soon as you watch one for like 3.5 seconds, your whole feed fills up with
It's
it.
like you love pimple popping.
Right. It's like I mean I don't get me wrong, I don't mind watching them once in a while, but I don't want to scroll through my feed and see 15 different videos of pimple popping, you
But then
know?
but then you watch them anyways because they're there.
Right, because you get mesmerized by it. Like, ooh,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Oh
Ooh.
man,
Yeah,
juicer. It's a juicer.
it's juicy.
But yeah, so we'll put a link in the chat. If you want, actually, you can put it in there. If you just type the address, because it's just the www.tiktok.com/ your username.
I don't even know my username.
Okay.
Hang
Um,
on, let me find it. I got it. Sorry,
Cool.
my head's down. There we go. Retro Lizard 1. There it is. Share profile. Copy link.
But oh, okay, and we got a super chat here from Ezekiel, the Chicago Retro Ranger. Huge supporter of the channel. Always appreciate it, Ezekiel. Absolute pleasure to have you. Sending over some love this way. And Ezekiel says, "Hey Jade and Retro Lizard, I'm seriously thinking about a Guitar Hero cab by Retro Lizard. They look awesome." And on that note, so do you don't ship though, right? Everything is like local for you.
No, I ship nationally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, LTL
Wow.
freight.
How does that work out? Like, so does the customer pay for the shipping?
Yeah, so you pay for, so you go on my website and order the arcade.
Mm-hmm.
You pay for full for the arcade, and then shipping isn't due until the end. And I'm about a 3 to 4 month wait, probably closer to 4 months right now. So the
Mm-hmm.
customer has at least 4 months to save up
Mm-hmm.
for shipping.
Mm-hmm.
Shipping is shipping prices are stupid.
Yeah.
It could be anywhere from $600 to $1,100, depending on where you are in the country. Like Jade, I think you're West Coast, so I'm East Coast.
Yeah.
So if I ship something to you, it is $1,100 guaranteed.
Wow.
Yeah, no matter what though, like I could ship 2 or 3 arcades on 2 different pallets to you at the same time,
Yeah.
and it will be $1,100. They're not going to charge me. They're not going to charge me extra, or maybe it'll go up maybe $100 for the second one. Like I shipped 2 linked racers um, last week. Last week Monday they went out, and it was $700 to go to Michigan for 2 linked racers on a pallet, on two
Uh-huh.
pallets.
Uh-huh.
And then at the same day I shipped a gun arcade down to Florida, and that was $1,000.
Oh my
I don't know the
God.
difference. I don't understand the difference in price. And then if I ship to South Carolina, I shipped another racer to South Carolina, and that was $430.
It's
I don't get the
it's
difference.
got to be like a ley line type thing, like interconnecting transports and stuff. It has to have something to do with that. Like how much do they have to offset their transportation to get the product
Right.
from point A to point B? But
And
that's crazy.
I've actually had to switch shipping companies. I was using a company for 2 years called Beltman Logistics,
Mm-hmm.
and they were fantastic. They were probably the cheapest ever. I didn't have to put anything on a pallet. I just had to make sure it was wrapped up tight, and they would come by, pick it up on a box truck, and then deliver it to the customer on a box truck.
Mm-hmm.
My average to you, like to ship something to you, their average price was 7 to 750, super cheap, right? And all of a sudden, I got a quote, or I got a call one day from them that said, "Hey, we're trying to deliver this to your customer in Virginia, and the semi truck can't get down the street." And I'm like, "What semi
Ooh.
truck?" I'm like, "We've never used a semi truck before. It's always box truck with a flatbed. That's what I always schedule as." And they're like, we'll have to call you back because we're gonna have to third party this out then." They charged my customer another $500 to get a box truck.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm like, my customer was between a rock and a hard place, and so was I. I'm like, I didn't know they were going to do that, so I had to switch companies,
Yeah.
because they were already a 3 week shipping time. So they would pick up for me, and they would be 10 to 15 business days. So I'm like, I need to switch this. If customers are going to pay this much money, I need to switch this to something faster.
Yeah.
So I found the best two companies to use is Estes and, believe it or not, FedEx. They're the best two cut. They're the best two companies that gives me the best two prices, and they get it to customers within 3 to 5 business days.
Wow, that's
That's
definitely an
what.
improvement.
Yeah. So like the linked racers I had shipped last week were picked up on a Monday, and they were delivered this past Monday. You can't beat.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's like serious logistics though, like especially when you're in the I mean, it's a good thing, I guess, that happened because now you're using something that's faster and technically better, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're faster, they're
But,
better, and the insurance is a lot higher too, and easier to make a claim if needed.
mm-hmm.
Knock on wood. I don't have any wood around me. Actually, I do. I got a cabinet next to me. Um, Knock on wood, though, I haven't had to use the insurance claim yet. Thank God. But yeah, dude, when I lose one though, because I've lost arcades, they get damaged. I had one that literally got crushed,
Oh,
and my heart sank, and
yeah,
I know the customers did too when it came to his house.
yeah.
And we were both like, "Oh, I had to order him a whole new cab," and he basically had to build the cab from his house with me instructing him on how to do it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, what am I gonna do? Send him a whole nother, he's got all the stuff and the parts, you
Yeah,
know. send it back to me and then me send it back to him and risk it again. It's like,
So
no, we gotta,
so it was like the shell basically that you had to have. Okay.
yeah, yeah. I had this. It was a racer too. I had the shell shipped to him, and he basically had to rebuild the entire thing with the guts that I provided to him.
Did he
And I gave him a refund. He got a full refund for me too.
wow. That's so crazy. So I mean like and I don't want to get into like the murky details of it, but I mean like it's going pretty well then.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It is like the business wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going very well. I've been in business for 3.5 years. I
Mhm.
started, I guess we can go into my little backstory, right? I started selling arcades 2 weeks before we went into lockdown in 2020. So I got into it by modifying the arcade one-ups. It started as a daddy-daughter project with an asteroids cab.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, wasn't my first cab. My first cab was a Rampage that I won on a raffle that
Oh
I didn't
wow.
put together for like 6 months. Um, and
Like
then I
like a one up rampage then.
Yeah, the
Okay.
Gen One,
Okay.
the Gen One. I think it was release. I won it on a raffle, and it was I think it was released because the guy didn't even have it. Like he had to order it and ship it to me, and it took like another 3 weeks to get to me.
Oh wow.
So I think it was the release cabs. But either way, ended up getting an asteroid cabinet a couple years later for like $75, and I'm like, how do I get more games on this? And
Mhm.
I YouTube. And I came across the first two YouTubers I came across was Mad Dad's Gaming. Shout out to him if he's ever going to see this because that guy's great. And then Detroit Love,
Uh-huh.
who I actually finally got to meet last weekend, which was really cool.
Oh, that is
I
cool.
think I weirded him out a little bit because I walked up to him and was like, "Yo, man, you are a bad motherfucker. You know that?" And he's like, "What did I do?" I'm like, "Nothing. That's a good thing."
And he's like so chill too.
Yeah, yeah, and I just swear like a fucking sailor. So, but Daddy Daughter Project, and I went on YouTube and I YouTubed the crap out of it and how to do it, and looked up parts, and I did a Raspberry Pi 3 mod with an image I found on Arcade Punks. It was Retro Rama 1000 subs was the image I found,
Hmm.
and it had 8,600 games on it. A couple friends seen that I did it, and they're like, "Can you do mine?" So I did theirs, and then my buddy owns this retro game store, which is now a retro game store slash arcade up in Lockport, New York.
Oh,
And he's like,
cool.
"Yo, I got a Ninja Turtles. It was the Gen One Ninja Turtles." And he's like, "Can you mod this for me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I never did a four-player, so let's do it." Went to his house, we hung out. It was a whole night of me modding the arcade for him and hanging out. And he's like, "Yo, you gotta advertise for this." He's like, "There's nobody in Buffalo that's doing this. You gotta advertise." I'm like, "I don't know, man. I don't think I want to open a business or get into that." And I started thinking about it more. I'm like, I can definitely make money off this.
Mhm.
And I was looking around and I did a lot of Googling just to see if there was anybody in Buffalo who sells arcades. Like, there has to be somebody. Buffalo is a pretty big city, and it's the second biggest city in New York State. There's got to be somebody in Buffalo selling arcades. Nobody.
Wow.
Nobody was. The only other person, I shouldn't say nobody was, the only other company that was 99 Lives. But
Okay.
he was just doing the decks at the time. He wasn't doing any drop kits yet.
Mhm.
So he was just doing the customized decks for you to replace on the arcade one up. So, and that's all that he was doing. He wasn't offering the full on mods or anything. So I threw it on Marketplace to offer the mods, and it blew up. That year went crazy with blowing up and doing mods. I did 53 mods that year between March of 2020 and December, at the end of the year, December 2020. I did 53 different mods. I took a break for a while, and I started being real limited on doing the mods, and I stopped doing them. I actually closed. I had a surgery, and then I had a second kid, or not a second kid. I had my third kid, and I got the itch, and I wanted to get back into it. And my wife's like, "If you're going to do this, you need to open up a website, and you need to offer more, and you need to offer bigger arcades, and you need to make more money off this. You literally, if you're going to do this as a business, treat it as a business and make more money off it if you're going to do it."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "All right, so let me see what I can do." I already used Game Room Solutions. I was already building bar tops. I already built a full-size mega arcade that they had, their big four-player that they had at the time. I'm like, and I built a two-player version that they had also. So I'm like, all right, I got to get into this. What can I offer? And I did light gun builds before too, with aim track guns. I would do multicades with aim track light guns, but I wasn't doing um, dedicated multi-cade set. I'm like, all right, I gotta offer that because there's again nobody out there was offering dedicated light gun multi-cades at that time. We're talking July of like 2021 now. So nobody was offering those as a multi-cade yet,
Mm-hmm.
just dedicated. So right around that time is when the gun for IR came out. And the Sinden gun was really popular too, but Gun for IR came out, and Gun for IR is, in my opinion, is better than the Sinden gun. So I got in with them, and I opened up the website, and I had lots of things to offer, and the website ended up taking off, even more than what I ever expected it to be. And last summer, so now we're August 22, I checked my numbers and I checked my profits, and I matched what I made at my regular job. And I was a paralegal,
Wow.
and I showed the numbers to my wife, and I'm like, sales are still coming in. So I'm like, what do you think if I quit my job and I take this full time? And she's like, we hemmed and hawed about it for a few days. But she's like, at the end of the day, she was like, go for it. And if it doesn't work out in 6 months, go back to being a paralegal. And here I am today, still running the business. I just had my 1 year anniversary this month. September 1st, made 1 year anniversary full time.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I brought on a helper, so I got a helper coming in
Cheers.
and giving me a hand. And if I could just hire a third person, that would be amazing.
Yeah,
But right
that's
now it's running, it's going great, man.
that's incredible. I mean, and what's really cool is that your wife kind of like pushed you in that direction. I mean, it's really really cool that she was so supportive and has like been that way. I mean, you quitting your job, like that's a big move for both of you.
Yeah,
And so the fact that, you were both confident enough to risk that, like, really is just, it says something. So that's cool. But congratulations to you and to your wife. Um but that's, I mean, that's great.
yeah. I mean, it's nice to have that support, and it was the encouragement to do that too, and just the backbone for it, or the backup, I should say, for it. Her encouraging me to do it, and then she promotes me. She's sharing a lot of stuff. She's not really a gamer or wasn't really into it. That first year I did all the one ups, she was kind of annoyed because like the kids would go to bed and then I would be in the garage every single night for months. And so she's by herself in the living room watching all of her shows.
Mm-hmm.
And she got used to her alone time
Yeah.
without because I'm in the garage.
Uh-huh.
And then when I wasn't working, she's like, "Don't you got stuff to do?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, I'm busy. like, I'm like, all right, I'll go in the basement because we got to finish basement. I'm like, all right, I'll go in the basement and hang out in the basement. But yeah, I think that was also part of the encouragement is she wanted her alone time back.
Yeah. Well, that's good though too. I mean, like, of course, like, we probably don't want to go down the relationship rabbit hole, but when you're with somebody for a long time, it is good for you to have like your own time apart and be able to do that, independently, I think.
I think so too. I think it's healthy for a relationship to have your independence, to go out with your friends by yourself, to go out with friends together, to sit in the living room when the other person's home watching TV by themselves while the other person's doing something else.
Yeah,
So like,
exactly.
you have to have that kind of independence,
Yeah.
you know?
You don't have to be attached to the hip at all times.
Exactly.
But that's cool. Awesome. Well, that's like, I mean, for such a short time span, like that's crazy to think about. Like, I'm just processing it. Like, I mean, pretty much in 3 years, you were able to quit your job and do full time something that you really love doing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And in all fairness, without even trying, like I never thought the website would do that.
You're like, my
There was
hand was tied behind my back.
right. Well, besides the fact that my wife encouraged me to open the website, another reason why I went public was while I took my break and I was closed and I wasn't really taking orders, people were still hitting me up for external drives.
Hmm.
And because people were buying drives from other people around the groups and the internet and they were being ghosted and it wasn't working, they didn't know how to set it
Oh,
up. So they were contacting me to see if I can help them out, maybe fix the drive or do a drive for them. So that's kind of another reason why I went public. And one of my top sellers are my drives, my my three drives actually. The racing drive, the light gun drive, and the pinball drive.
mm.
So those are my top three. Those are basically my only ones, but they're the top three sellers. I sell gun drives every month. I'm loading them up. I sale in August, and I sold so many that I could barely keep up with them. And because I usually order them on a weekly basis
Mm-hmm.
for from Amazon to load them up, and I was having so much of a hard time just keeping up with the August orders into September, and I finally just got caught up like last week.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've thought about. I mean, I kind of told you like I've thought about building them, like as like a side thing. Like kind of, my thing would be like to just pick like one, maybe start with one cabinet model and kind of go with that and be like, you have these choices, these themes to choose from, and you can choose like colors on the T molding, etc.
Right.
And also, having a build because I've made my own build of big box now that I have that's pretty like it's pretty good, and it should work with like as a light gun build, but I'm still waiting to get light guns from T molding when they get them back in stock.
No, you don't want any tracks. You want gun for IR.
So what? Tell me what the difference is because I'm not experienced with like these new generations of light guns.
So the aim track gun is a glorified Wii remote. It's the oldest gun that's been around. It's been around since I think the late 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
early teens. It was basically the first actual light gun, aftermarket light gun on the market.
Right.
But it's basically a glorified aim track, or not aim track. It's basically a glorified Wii remote.
Okay. Why is that
It
bad
actually
though?
it's bad because of the way that it tracks. It's a two sensor system. It's a small bar, and when you calibrate the gun, so say you're probably what 5'6", 5'7", just
Sure.
guessing your height. So let's use me as an example. I'm 6 foot tall. If I
Okay.
calibrate that gun on my screen and I give you the gun to use it, we're gonna have to recalibrate the gun to adjust to your height.
Really? It's that
Yeah,
sensitive?
it's that sensitive and it's that stupid. You have to be, and you also have to play. Basically, if we calibrate it in the center, if we're standing in the center of the screen, 5 feet back or 4 feet back, whatever it has to be,
Mm-hmm.
we basically have to play from that point or somewhere as close to that point for that gun to track correctly. If we move a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, it's going to be slightly off with the tracking.
That's crazy.
Um, the Sinden gun and the gun for IR, the two best light guns that would be on the market. I think one is better than the other.
Mm-hmm.
The Sinden gun doesn't use any sensors. It uses the white border, but it uses the software. The software, if the software is not running, the gun doesn't work.
Yeah.
And the
That's
game, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's the one thing I don't like about send in is that you have to use the soft. Well, you have to use the software, which wouldn't be that big of a deal, but then you have the border, so everything that you're using alongside that, like with any overlays or anything like that, it all has to be tailored to the border and stuff like that.
Exactly. And the border isn't universal, and a lot of people don't know that until they start setting up the games. The border will work from activating it on the gun from MAME, but in other emulators, certain Technoparrot games, you have to, certainly even Windows games,
Mm-hmm.
you have to set up a reshader file for an automatic border to appear on the screen instead of using the border that's built into the software, because that border doesn't overlay on those specific games.
Yeah.
So that was a tough challenge for me when I was setting the gun up and setting up the drive. It took me like 3 weeks to do that drive, just from going game for game for game because you
Yeah.
don't know. Like
Yeah.
when new games get released too, you don't know if the border is going to work on it or not until we plug in the gun and try to activate the border. And if the
Mm-hmm.
border doesn't work, we got to set up the reshader file.
Yeah.
So it's a turn off for me.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
I think it's a con for that gun. The software I think is a con too because say you built a light gun cabinet, you're going to have to set that software to automatically turn on
Mm-hmm.
and load up before the front end loads up like big box. And if it doesn't load up and it gives you an error, you're going to have to screw around with it.
Yeah. But so Sinden doesn't use sensors though, and
Right.
Gun for IR does. So do you think like, and I just thought about this, but do you think that that's why, um, like Arcade One Up is using Sinden technology because it doesn't use a sensor? Because I'm just thinking like, if that tech is technically better, then you could just like basically build in like a little sensor and then plug it into the back of the PCB or something as a solution to actually be able to use Gun for IR on those cabs.
I think Arcade went up with Sinden because it's commercially available and
Mm-hmm.
Gun for IR isn't.
Okay.
Gun for IR, they probably never even heard of Gun for IR when they went into contract with Sinden because it was more of a low key modding type thing.
Oh,
Um,
okay, okay.
we have RPEG in New York City who sells actual gun for IRs and he modifies them by hand.
Right,
But
right.
the actual gun for IR is supposed to be a DIY project, and it's just a technology that goes inside the gun that you can modify. And they don't have an actual gun shell. You can modify a gun for IR with anything, with whether it's a GunCon 1 for a PS1, Super Jolt, the Time Crisis 3 gun, or even a Nerf gun.
Right.
The gun for IR can go with anything.
It's all
But
making sense now.
right. So then it's got the 4-point sensor system, like you mentioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's 4 points. Look at your screen. It looks like a cross. Each sensor goes at one of those points of the cross. And it does have a software, but the software is only used to calibrate the gun once. You never use the software again unless you get another gun and have to recalibrate it. Otherwise, you pick up those guns and you play.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
The sensors don't have to be plugged into the computer. They don't have to be plugged into the monitor. Well, they can be, but they just need to be plugged into a 5 volt power source for them to be powered and run. The what you mentioned about Arcade One Up and putting a little sensor behind it. Buy stuff arcade, right?
Yeah.
They just made a bezel, and they're the only company right now that has a bezel that will fit the Arcade One Up sensors behind the Plexi. So they made a
Ah,
bezel with sensors built into it, and
there
it's
you
a
go.
19. I know, right? It's a 19-inch monitor upgrade too for an Arcade One Up. So
Okay.
they showed me they got the retro shooter guns,
Yeah.
and then they made the sensor system for that to go behind one of the bezels, and I'm like, you guys should do that for Gun for IR because nobody does. And
Yeah.
then they did it.
Yeah.
Like a week later, they were like, "Oh, we did it." I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, that's ingenious. They're doing but they're it makes sense, you know, like it makes sense if that's the easier, better hardware, software combo to use or whatever. Um, but the fact, I mean, obviously, like you said, it's like a modding thing right now, so it's something that either has to be built or you do it yourself.
Or you
But
buy it from RPEG Electronics, but there's a big price difference. A Sinding gun is like $150 shipped.
mhm.
The cheapest gun for IR you can get that's already built is $400.
Yeah, they're
But
they're pricey.
it comes with a rumble motor inside it and a 12-volt recoil already inside it too.
Yeah.
So you're getting a recoil gun no matter what, and it's handmade.
I mean, it's definitely gonna be. I think my only thing with stuff like that is when you pay $400 for something and it's not like a commercial product. It's like, well, if it takes a shit on you, then you're kind of out of luck if it's like 3 months down the road or whatever happens.
Well, he does 90-day warranty them. And
Not
I know,
not
right?
yeah, not that it's a negative thing. I'm just saying, like, if it's
Yeah.
a commercial product, generally speaking, like, you're going to be able to get more back from that company. So it's always, I guess, there's always a risk associated with it, but
Always, yeah.
yeah, they're just, I mean, they're pricey, but they are nice. I know for a fact that they're nice. I would like to get my hands on some of those RPEG guns just to see how they work with my system. Like, like a, what do you call it, passing review or something like that, just to like try them out and see how they work with my setup.
You will fall in love.
And I suspect I will. But anyways, yeah. So that's interesting, like tech talk when it comes to the differences and stuff like that. But buy stuff arcades, or wait, is it buy stuff? It's buy stuff
Yeah,
arcades, right?
yeah.
Okay, I always get them confused because I swear there's like another one called like buy stuff store or something like that. I don't know.
That's them. Yeah, that's them.
Okay,
Same
well,
company.
yeah, I've been buying like their riser boosters forever for the one ups. Um, but they started coming out with all this, other cool stuff, and they built the racing cab, like the actual racing cab. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like they're starting to do more stuff. Everybody was like really in love with their drop-in arcade one-up racer kit, and I was like not. Like, now I like this company. I think that they do really innovative stuff and they're cool. I just was not in love with that kit because it was not arcade racers. It was like all consoles, and I'm like, well, I mean, like, I have a Dreamcast. I have a steering wheel for my Dreamcast. Like, I mean, relatively speaking, like, it's not something that I would want to pay that much for to get the console versions on my
right.
one-ups, if that makes sense.
I got to send you my drive because my drive, my 1 terabyte racer,
Yeah, I
is
know.
plug and play
I've
with
seen it.
theirs,
I've
and
seen
it's
it, Joel.
yeah.
It's insane.
I know you have, man, but I'm just saying I got to send you mine because that is arcade focused right there. The only console games I have on that is Nintendo 64, actually.
Yeah. But I mean, like, the generally speaking, when your setups are like that, it's like you're gonna plug a 64 controller into the USB port and then play it like that or something. Like,
Right.
it's, I mean, your builds are like really really awesome. If you guys haven't checked out his YouTube, I did put a link in the description, and you can just click on that and check his stuff out. But he makes some wicked cool racers. I think you made a Batman one, right?
Yeah.
And
That one had an active marquee inside it too.
dude, that one was sick. I was like, oh my god, it's the freaking arcade, the actual arcade Batmobile.
And that's
Um,
the Buy Stuff arcade racing shell.
the Buy Stuff Arcade what?
Buy Stuff arcade racing shell. That's their
Shell.
yeah, that's their racer. So that's their racing shell, the racer that they sell.
Okay.
They allowed me to buy their shell and put my stuff inside it and then sell it to customers.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, anyways, it's really cool. So but anyways, that was my only complaint about that drop-in kit that they did. Now I think it's cool because I know a lot of people like love it, and that's really all that matters, is that people are buying it. But
Right.
I'm more of like, if I'm doing a build on a cabinet, I want it to be pure arcade. I don't want console stuff on it, or if I do, I want it to be compartmentalized so that it's like in a separate thing, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So
I
that's
think
like, that's how I go with those.
I think what they were trying to focus on though too, they were looking for because I told them they should work on a computer mod for it, not just an EMULAC or an Android box. That they should move towards computer because it would
Right.
open up the world a little bit more for them and their
Yes.
customers.
Yeah. And they do
But
so much. Like, they do, I mean, they're very innovative with what they do. So sorry to interrupt you, but
no, you're cool. You're cool. I like their Star Wars mod. Like I told them, I'm like they should definitely because B doesn't do the Star Wars mod anymore. And I basically discontinued mine because I just have so much trouble just keeping up with that.
mhm.
But their Star Wars mod is through the Android box, but you're not going to get. I don't think you get Trilogy on it, and I don't think you get Battle Pod. And those were the two main games that people wanted the Star Wars mod for. Was those two specific games, and they're fun as hell to play on the yoke. And I
Mhm.
told the guys, I'm like, you should really look into just offering a PC mod with that yoke
Yeah.
instead of doing the Android box. I'm like, so you're going to charge a little bit more,
Well,
but people will buy it.
how much are the Android boxes? Like, what are we talking here? I mean, it's like $80.
Yeah, and then depending on which one you get, I think to buy the Android box is 60 to $80 off of Amazon, depending on which one you get.
But you
But then
can get,
you got to get the SD card for it too, so that's what another $20.
yeah, there you go. So I
Yeah,
mean, and you can get an SSD mini PC running a Ryzen 550 for $120.
right. And then you can drop an NVIDIA graphic card inside it for another 250,
I mean,
and you're good.
if you wanted to, but I mean, even without that, you can run all the 3D heavy games on there, no problem. Because I mean, that's what I've got in my like the Vuelich style build that I did,
Right.
and I have zero issues. Like, I don't drop any frames, like no lag running. All the 3D fighters. I mean, well into the 2000s. And so, I mean, if it, and oh, and of course, Model 3. So it runs all the Model 3 games, no problem. Then we're talking like Star Wars trilogy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, like, I think that would be a really good way for them to go, especially considering that they use like really cool gear, and they're so innovative. I mean, hearing that they're doing that with the bezel for the light gun stuff is really, that's cool. So
That was amazing. They got two CNC machines running now, and they're starting to just pump them out. Their turnaround time has gone way down. So they're really starting to move things and pump them out too. Which for your viewers out there, I've also, if you haven't seen any of She Lion stuff, you got to check out her videos, man. Especially her TikTok. She makes some killer ass content on TikTok, and that's actually what caught my attention for you. And I realized that you were more than just like arcade one up orientated or anything like that. That you were actually rehabbing arcades and building arcades, and you're doing shit, man. Like you're doing shit that other people don't even do. Like you're rehabbing CRTs. You're
kind
soldering, dude. I don't
kind
even know
of
how to fucking solder, and you got some soldering skills going on there.
a little
Like you're
bit,
doing some shit, man.
a little bit.
And so let me ask you this. So you got your arcade one ups in the basement over there, right? I know you got your Vulix cab over there. What's
Yeah.
you got your Vulix and it's running a Ryzen.
Hmm.
Isn't don't you have a board inside there too?
Well, I have a Naomi, and then I have some Namco boards, and those are interchangeable, like JVS. I actually haven't gone. I haven't like mounted them in there. I did test them with the VGA input just to make sure that there was like no issues because Naomi, I don't know if you know this, but Naomi actually has like two video settings on it, and it's kind of like interlaced versus non-interlaced, but you basically change the video setting on it so that you can run it with the VGA output and it like looks correct
Nice.
on an LCD screen or whatever. Um, but anyways, yes, so it is set up to be able to run like JAMA or a JVS setup, like just like a Candy Cab or Velux would.
That's really fucking cool, man. See, that's shit that I don't even know how to fucking do that. I've never even touched. Now, what?
It's super easy with like especially that generation.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, if you're ever interested in that, like let me know. The easiest, probably one of the easiest way to start is like you can buy Pandora kits off of eBay or Amazon,
Right.
and it comes with everything like the power supply, the whole JAMA harness, and the Pandora. I
Yeah.
think Pandora's, I'm like, whatever. Like it's cool, but whatever. I mean, for 120 bucks, if you get a complete kit that you can literally just drop into your cabinet and wire up and it's good to go, like even fully operational coins and stuff like that, like
Yep.
that's pretty damn good, right?
It is. I've
But
used the Pandora once.
mm-hmm,
I did a Street Fight. I had my buddy brought me a Street Fighter. My buddy that owns the arcade up north for me brought me a Street Fighter he got for like 300 bucks, but the monitor was out. Actually, the power supply was out. He plugged it in and it wouldn't turn on. So I changed the power supply. But when I changed the power supply, this is the first time I've ever worked on a real arcade. I wired the power supply wrong and I popped the board. Like it smoked.
I'm
Like
sorry, it's not funny, but it is.
it's funny and it sucked because I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I looked up Street Fighter boards and they're like 230 bucks. And I'm like, it was Street Fighter Championship. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, okay. I told them what I did, but I'm like, bro, I'm going to cover it. Don't worry. I'm going to take care of it. I'm like, do you want me to get another board for dedicated or do you want me to go with something like a Pandora and you can have multi games on it and we can still hook up your coin door? And he's like, get the Pandora. I like the multi option better. I'm like, okay, cool. So that was my first Pandora build. And then when I finally got it fired up, the monitor had a vertical, um, I don't know what the word's called actually because I don't really work on things.
Collapse.
Yeah, that's it. It had a
Okay.
vertical collapse. And I'm like, oh fuck. Now I got to change the monitor. How
Hmm.
do I do that? Right? So I had to learn how to take out a CRT safely.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy works on them, and he sent me the tool to discharge the plunger and take the monitor out, and then I put an LCD in there. I
Yeah.
think I like Pandoras. What I'm getting at is I like Pandoras.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're worth it. I think they're cool. If you want to have a multi-cade with a coin door attached to it,
Mm-hmm.
that is your easiest option
Oh
to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, definitely like a very affordable and good. I mean, like for the price, a great option. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not going to argue that. And the other thing is if you get a Pandora kit and you don't even use the Pandora, you still have everything you need, literally, just to drop into any cabinet and turn it into a functioning arcade cabinet, whether it's CRT or LCD.
Because of that
And
JAMA harness, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so I mean, whether you use the Pandora or not, you've got the JAMA harness. So anything that runs on JAMA and potentially JVS, you'd have to swap out the power supply. You could run on that. So I think that for what it is, they're definitely worth it. And I know they have like higher end ones now that will run like the 3D fighters and stuff like that pretty well. So
I have the retro shooter coming in. It's going to get delivered on Tuesday.
oh
So
cool.
I guess it's the Pandora 10, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a multicade version of
Mm-hmm.
Pandora with light gun games on it. You're gonna have to hide the rest of the games. That's from what I'm told.
Mm-hmm.
I'll know more once I get it. But there's a demand out there for those guns now working on PCs.
Oh, okay.
So, and now that everybody's got those guns, they're itching for more. And I've had a lot of communication with people asking me if my drive is compatible yet. And I'm like, they're on their way.
Yeah, I just saw uh Ralph did a video. He got like did you see that with his like a big Time Crisis shooter? It's like a 50-inch screen.
I am salty about that.
Dude,
I'm salty.
I was too, but I mean it was insane, right? Like I saw the size of it and I'm like, good God, like that's like half of my game room. But I mean it's really good looking. But one thing that I did think when I saw it is like that's too big for a shooter in like for me, for me personally, it's cool. It's very cool, but it's too big. But like the whole configuration and everything was like just mesmerizing. I like though like the GRS style shooter cabinets where you have like the recessed screen, you know.
Yeah.
Um
So I agree with you on the too big thing. There is such a thing as too big when you're making an arcade, right?
mhm.
Especially when you're making a multicade. That thing had a 50-inch screen inside it, but it's not using the entire screen. You know, a lot of it had bezels set up on it,
Right, right.
and I got strong opinions about that. I don't like using bezels, but I also don't like playing on screens that big because, especially specifically for light guns,
Mhm.
because if you're gonna use a 50-inch screen, why aren't you gonna play on the whole screen? You know, why do you have if you wanna
Right.
be a purist and use 4.3 and you're just gonna shrink that 55 down
Mhm.
to a 43 and put 12-inch bezels on each side or whatever the size of it is, what's the point? You know, why don't you just buy a 32-inch monitor and play on a 32-inch monitor in full screen that way? You
Well,
know?
when you're getting but you also have to think, I mean like I at least think about this. Like for example, cuz people will say like, "Oh, you have a widescreen in your arcade or whatever." And it's like, "Well, yeah." And I use bezels. Like I wasn't a hugely proponent for bezels or whatever. But I've gotten like a little bit more accustomed to it with the bigger screens because it's more like playing on a 26-inch monitor
Right,
if you're playing 4 by 3, right?
right,
But here's the other thing. Then you have these like weird random games like Street Fighter 3 Second Impact where there is a legit setting in the test menu and you can change the game to real 16 by 9 widescreen.
right,
And so you have games like that or you have like newer gen shooters that are in 16 by 9 and they'll fill the whole screen, you know.
right.
So I think there is that aspect of it, but at the same time, I mean, 50 inches is like almost like your eyes can't even cover the whole screen. It's just
Yeah.
like it's just for me, it's a little bit too big. But that thing was awesome, though. I mean, it just was.
And you're also playing 6 feet back on a screen that big too. You know, you're not going to
Right.
be 2 to 3 feet away from it. You have to be probably actually 6 to 8 feet back just so that the gun can cover the whole screen, especially on games that are full screen like Time Crisis 5 or Scarlet Dawn. You know,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, a little salty about him getting that cab because that's an Australian company and this is
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, is that what I gotta do? Do I gotta send Ralph one of my cabs? Is that what I gotta do? You know, do I gotta do that? Do I gotta send him a free gun cab and be like, oh, buy from Retro Lizard in America instead of shipping it across the world and risking in a crate?
Yeah.
Like, I don't. I
Maybe
mean,
you should. Maybe you
maybe
should.
I
Come
should.
on. You know
Yeah,
what? Give him the caviar of
yeah,
cabs.
right. Give him
Seriously.
the give him the maximum lizard.
uh, but yeah, no. I mean, I'd love to see that. So, anyways, oh, light guns. Yeah, that's something that I've got to work on. But okay. We kind of started talking about this before the show, you guys, and we were talking a little bit about Arcade One Up. Now, obviously, like you and me, like our origins, just as far as like I would say, like the ingenuity of like getting into a lot of what we do now, probably started with Arcade One Up. Like I was a tinkerer before that, and I had built my own MAME cab back in with a very good friend of mine back in like the early 2000s when it first came out. Like I was saying, you know, when you're on internet forums, like
Yeah.
trying to find pictures that people posted with their really crappy cameras and uploaded, and it's 56K or 33.6, whatever. But
Downloading ROM sets from LimeWire.
yeah, you remember those days. You got DSL and you thought you were the shit.
Yeah,
Um,
seriously.
but uh, but so anyways, and that was like my first experience with a cab because at that time, you know, arcades still existed, and it wasn't like you would just come up on a cabinet or a good cabinet and just be like, oh, you know, $300. Like no, that's just
Right.
not how it was then.
No.
And so then there's like a gap there where I was in the military for 11 years, and obviously like I just didn't really have time to dink around with that stuff. Um, so
Were
fast
you
forward,
Army?
no, Marines.
Oh, good for you, man. My brother was Army for 18, so good for you, man.
Oh, cool, right on.
Yeah.
But yeah. So fast forward to now, and you know, uh, Arcade One Up was the thing that got me back into it, and it was the Street Fighter cab, and I was just like, you know, these are it's really cute, like this is fun, whatever. I just wanted to try it out. I think I got it for like 199 on sale or
The
something like
Gen
that.
1s, man.
Yeah, and then I ended up getting GRS's you know, upgrade kit that they were selling for the Gen 1 Street Fighter 2. Um, and I hated that monitor so much, though. I hated it so much. But I didn't want to spend more money on upgrading it after that. I was like, well, I've already spent, you know, like $450 total on this thing. I'm like, I don't want to spend another 100 on a monitor, whatever.
Right.
Um, and so I just kind of left it the way it was, which was fine. It was fun. It was cool. You could play a bunch of games on it. Um,
But here's
thank.
the key factor you said though. You bought a drop kit and you modded it. You know, we would spend 199 on these cabs
Mm-hmm.
back then,
Mm-hmm.
knowing they were shitty and that we were going to add more games to it,
Right.
not collecting them.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing though, is and thank you by the way, Brad D. Thank you very much for the 4.99 super chat. Brad D says arcade one ups were such a great getaway drug or gateway drug. Sorry.
Yeah, I
And
agree
that's
with that.
that's true.
Yeah,
But here's my thing, because I'm like impartial as far as like the company or the cabinets itself goes. Like I have my opinions about like certain things that the company does, but I feel like at this point, like once we got to 20, what was it, 2020, whenever they started doing like Marvel versus Capcom, like basically Wave 3, right?
yeah,
And they start charging like 4.99 a cab. Well, at this point, they're adding a light up marquee and, you know, dual speaker panel, and they had the BOE monitors, which was, I mean, it was a nice upgrade. And then they came with the risers with the printed on licensed artwork and all that, right?
right.
So it's like, okay, so they kind of had this collectible aspect to them as well. And it's like, okay, so this, you know, it's fun, it's cool, whatever. And then, you know, they go above the baseline when they start getting like racing cabs and gun cabs. And then, you know, you're talking what, 5.99, 6.99 respectively. And I mean, that's getting like pricey, but at the same time, when you're thinking about what's being produced at a commercial grade level and like what you're getting, it's like, I mean, if you add everything up, like the pricing, it is what it is. Like to me, it makes sense from a commercial point of view. You know what I'm saying? Like I know people don't agree with the pricing, but to me, from a production and commercial point of view, the prices make sense. And I don't think that they have changed very much since then. Like, I mean, since like that time frame of wave 3 and then, you know, where they're getting the driving and shooting cabs, I think that the prices have stayed fairly consistent. It's just that people have bought so many of them that now they're like getting pissed that they have to pay, you know, 5.99 again for another
Right.
cab that they want. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's kind of a you problem, you know.
Right. From a business standpoint, it definitely makes sense for the price point. Some of them we could probably debate that they might be a little bit too high and they should go down. But you got to think about this. They were a small company back in 2017, 2018 that
Mm-hmm.
probably never thought that they would get this far or get this high or have this many out there with a following.
Yeah.
So they've had to hire people, they've had to open up things, they've had to make bigger production. So everything we're paying for is bigger production standpoints. We're paying for these people to have a living and have a job. So by the prices going up with inflation and increase in business, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
So it really does. And
But
licensing too, it just makes sense.
But how much have they really gone up though? Because if you think about, look, Marvel versus Capcom 2 versus Marvel versus Capcom 1, it's $100 price increase. But how much of that $100 do you think is the fact that they added a molded coin door, the different ingenuity of the cab itself, better, like upgraded joysticks at least, the BOE monitor, and then, what the licensing for MVC2 and all of those games on one PCBA, right?
How much was MVC2?
It was five ninety nine, and
It's
MVC
5.99.
yeah, and MVC1 was 499, but only had
No, it was that was 2.99 plus a riser.
no MVC1. No,
Yeah, Marvel versus Capcom with the
mm-mm.
Punisher on it.
Okay, X-Men versus Street Fighter, I think was 399, and then like riserless.
Yes,
Chat,
but
can anyone in
we're
here?
talking the blue cab with the Punisher on it, right?
No, that's Marvel superheroes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, I confused.
No, it's all good.
If you're going from that price point to that price point, then I mean that's a big increase right there. But you're right, 4.99 to 5.99 is only $100 difference.
And you get a better build of a cab, a better marquee, the joysticks and the molded coin door with a PCBA that has, all the licensed games on it, MVC2 all the way down to Marvel Superheroes and or X-Men Coda, sorry, because I guess that precedes Marvel Superheroes. But anyways, so I mean, to me, that makes it wasn't like a big deal. It made sense to me. But as far as like, if we look at like the Street Fighter cabs, they're generally going for like 449 or something
Right.
like that, and that's with the lit marquee, molded coin door, better joysticks, riser with licensed art that matches the rest of the cab, and a BOE monitor. I mean, that's a drastic improvement. Those are upgrades that people were doing in the modding community, and if you were doing that with a Gen 1 cab to put a coin door, monitor, lit marquee, better joysticks and buttons, how much would you end up spending total with the cost of the cab included?
It was another $300 without the coin door. Just adding. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was another $300. I'm sorry. Take that back. It was $200 more with the Gen One to mod them. Add in the marquee. You're looking at another 100.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on where you got it from. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
$80 if you got it from Angel. I forgot what his prices were back then.
Mm-hmm.
But then the coin doors were at least another 40 or $50,
Mm-hmm.
depending on where you got that from too. So you're right there. You're looking at what looking at 350, $400. So
Exactly.
your price point to add all that stuff in, but you're modding it with a pie. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's where it's going to come in there, and your price point's going to go up. You take off the pie though, and you just do the. I mean, a pie was $40 back then, but you just
Right.
add in your arcade sticks. I mean, you're still right around the price point. So I see what you're saying. And then people were doing the 20-inch monitor mods, and back then those monitors were $150 on eBay.
Yeah.
I think they still are actually.
Eh. Yeah.
And then you
Depends.
and then you got to get the bezel kit, or you got to make
Exactly.
your own. And that was coming from Tulsa.
And same thing
Because
with the kick plate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So they took all that work out and just made it into one thing basically. And so if that's why I'm saying like that's how the pricing relates to me is like if you're looking at whatever it is like their shooter cab or whatever, T2 was $699. Big Buck Hunter is $599 for some reason, and then well actually I think the first one Big Buck World was $699, but T2 is $699. Big Buck World, let's just say $599 or $650, and then you have Time Crisis, which is $740 on Shop Hippo, but that's shipped, so that means that it's a $699 cab, right?
Yeah,
So technically,
and they're calling that a deluxe cab too. They're not calling it a regular cab. They named it deluxe.
yeah, it's deluxe because there's
Yeah,
no. I guess that's what they call anything that doesn't have a riser on it now is
right.
deluxe. And and so and you get the Sinden technology or whatever. They're not. I think people get that confused. They're not actually like Sinden guns. I don't think it's just like
No.
they're using some of their tech like software wise.
Yeah, I had some strong opinions about those guns when I first used T2. I was expecting to hear the Sinden recoil inside it. Mind you, when I got the T2, I never watched any videos on it or anything. I was like, oh, it's a Sinden gun. I just assumed. And the way people were praising it too, I just kind of assumed that it had a Sinden recoil inside it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I pulled that trigger for the first time, it was the biggest letdown I've ever had. It was because I'm like, what the fuck is this? It sounds like a fucking popcorn popper that my kid uses. And
But the thing is, like, they're detached from the console too, which is like not the original format of the machine.
right,
So because they're detached, it's like, well, how much recoil could you really like? You're like a big strong dude. You're like, you want to sit there and just be
well,
like, ah.
the Sinden recoil is a 5-volt recoil that runs off the USB line.
Mm-hmm.
So I just assumed that that's what the arcade one up would use is their normal recoil that runs off the 5-volt line plugged into the PCB.
Okay.
And when I opened up that gun to see what that sound was, it's a screw hitting a piece of plastic.
Yeah.
That's the sound.
I was
I
gonna
couldn't
say,
believe
was it
it.
a Pez dispenser?
It should have been, right? And then when they got when I seen B do the Time Crisis, I didn't even realize that it had a recoil on the top of it, or what you would call a top slide,
Uh-huh.
or their version of it. Like he was pulling the trigger in the video as he was holding the gun with his hand, and I couldn't see it recoiling until he did a close up of it. Because
Hmm.
I went into one of the groups and I was bitching. I'm like, they didn't even fucking put a top slide on it. This is stupid. Blah blah blah. And then B's like, watch the video. And I did, and I'm like, oh, it does have a top slide. All right, I'm not gonna bitch anymore. And then I realized the top slide was just a spring.
Mm-hmm.
It's a spring-loaded top slide.
Yeah.
There's still no recoil inside it. I wasn't expecting gold, but I was again expecting maybe they would have smartened up and put the Sinden recoil inside it, and they still didn't. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why they haven't, because it doesn't cost that much more to do it.
Yeah. I mean,
And, and the
if
price point.
if I had to guess, it's probably because of like the lack of knowledge on the development side. That's why. I don't think it's like a deliberate like marketing thing, to be honest. I honestly think it's like a lack of understanding on the development side. They're like, they're just like, oh cool, it recoils. Pew.
Which doesn't make any sense. Like if that the lack of knowledge on the development side is
Hey,
what I mean.
look,
When you had John D in there, and he's definitely an arcade guy.
yeah.
He should have, but we don't know what happens behind the scenes.
Well,
We
he
don't know how
well
much say he had.
he wasn't like fully involved in every project because his main
Right,
thing was licensing,
right,
and I mean when I talked to him, offline on our interview, he was kind of talking about that. He's like, there are just some things that I don't have, any pull on. He's like,
right.
or that I just don't see because I'm dealing with like licensing stuff. He's like, there are some things that I'm a little bit more involved in, but blah blah blah. So, anyways, long story short, um, I just think that they need someone over there who knows what the hell is going on or who to reach out to if they're not sure about the authenticity of how a piece of hardware works or software. And I feel like that is one of the biggest things that they're lacking is in their development or marketing area for that stuff. Like, because they're always saying authenticity. And it's like, okay, you do get a certain level of nostalgia from these, or at least I do. But when you guys screw certain things up, like with the software, for example, Big Blue, right now, Big Blue, if you turn on scan lines on any of the Street Fighter games, it like stretches the image out. And I'm like, what the fuck? How do you do this? How do you do from a developmental point of view? How is this thing not updated when you have the Shinku, the Yoga Flame, and they're both running basically like cross-play software that works with the Big Blue, but
Right.
for some reason the Big Blue has like these Riri graphics, like, so I don't know,
And
but
not even that.
that's
What about the lag on the Big Blue? The Big Blue, the control lag.
well, they fixed that, or
Right.
they fixed it for the most part. But I mean, and a lot of that feedback came from where.
But it was released with the lag.
Yeah.
Like I can't
Hmm.
believe that they would even that somebody was like, "Oh, this is fine."
But
You know.
see, but the other thing that we have to consider as like people who have touched all the real stuff and like mess with these all the time is that to somebody who's just walking up to this thing and is like, hey, look, this fighting game, look at this, I can press buttons and they punch each other. Oh,
Right.
this is fun and it looks like an arcade, like I want this in my house, versus like the 150 people in the home arcade community that are like, oh my god, it's Jesus Christ, what is this sacrilegious piece of shit? Like,
Yeah. Right.
like they're
That
like,
gets a little ridiculous sometimes.
yeah. So I think that they're like, well, we're just gonna manage our expectations, but we're definitely like we can be over the top, like that aspect of like enthusiasm for it and enthusiasts who are experienced with it can be over the top.
I mean, yes and no, right? We definitely can be. What
Yeah.
about let's bring up Fast and Furious real quick. You and I both basically got that
Hmm.
the first weekend that it came out.
Yeah.
And we were both running videos on it. I bought it personally, and I
I
wanted
bought
to
I
test it
bought
out and
one
see what
I
it
bought
was.
one as well to do the link
Right.
play.
So I didn't do the link thing, but I bought it because I do racing cabs and I wanted to see how it was, and I figured I'd give my honest opinion about how it actually felt.
Hmm.
And I had mine on before the update came out, and it played like shit before
Hmm.
the update. And I didn't know there was an update coming out because I don't really follow the forums or anything like that. I got a
Yeah.
lot of shitty comments in my video too,
I
like "There's an update coming on Monday."
I
Like,
was
who the fuck am I
literally
supposed to know that?
I was literally like harassing John. I was like, dude, you got to push this update out or people are going to burn down the Arcade One Up headquarters. Like, hurry
Yeah,
up. But the funny thing is that it was already ready. Like, I guess it should have just been because we got our cabs early. So I got mine early, but you got yours early as well. Like that was before the actual launch date. And so the update, the way it works is that their system is set up so that it's going to push the update on release day. So nobody should have played that, if that makes
but
sense.
what I'm getting at with that though is that development team.
Hmm.
Somebody was at that headquarters and the development team and was like, "Oh, this plays great," and it didn't. And then they had to make an update for it because they put it into production, and somebody realized after production and the PCBs were done that we need to fix this and we need a firmware update day one no matter what. So they were gonna if there wasn't a firmware update, they would have released it like they released it like that technically. And it's like
Yeah.
you're right. Somebody at the development team needs to. They need more people and better people on development team for testing out things like that actually know what they're doing. I guess. It was kind of an obvious issue too. So
Well, see, and here's the funny thing. Like to me, I was like, okay, the steering feels like a little bit sensitive, but then I was like, I'm going like back and forth between the one in the garage.
right.
And I'm like, okay, it's just like maybe I'm just adjusting because my daughter was playing it and she was like, okay, I'm like kind of getting used to it. But once the update came out, I was like, oh my God, it was really bad.
It was night and day. Yeah, it
Yeah.
literally was. Like as soon as I started playing that first level, within 5 seconds, I'm like, "Oh my god, this is perfect." Like I did it in my video when I was recording it raw,
Hmm.
and I'm like, just so you could see my reaction. I was like, "Holy shit, this is amazing!" Now, like, it
Yeah.
turned out to be it's a really good cab. If anybody watching doesn't have it and you want to get a racing cab, I highly recommend that cab.
Yeah.
This shifter, I really like the
I
shifter on.
I think it's their best racing cab. Like
Yeah,
my personal opinion. I hate the marquee. I don't know why they did that. So stupid. But I think it's their best racing cab. I think they should have skinned it as a Tokyo Drift. But I mean, it is what it is.
I think they were trying to push it along with the movie. Is what I think they were trying to do, like
Oh,
Fast X.
I
Yeah,
completely agree.
it
But
was definitely marketing.
yeah. Um, but everything else about it, like the licensing and stuff, I really didn't care about. Like to me, the game, like the actual element of a Raw Thrills racing game was right there, and it felt like it.
Yeah,
Yes, like the graphics weren't as good, and the frame rate was dropped to 30. But like, I mean, you
that I don't
and
care about that. You
exactly
know,
you and me though, like. If we can sit here as people who are picky and enthusiasts and say the game played really well and it ran really well, then I mean, I don't know.
any any Joe Schmo that would just buy that doesn't know arcades or anything like that would turn that game on. They would have no idea it's running at 30 frames per
And
second.
they'd definitely be like, if you want a good racing game, you would be happy with that, I think.
Right.
So
Exactly. Your daughter probably would play that, and she has no idea that it's running at 30 frames per second, and she's going to enjoy the shit out of it.
right.
My kids did. My kid broke my Ridge Racer within 20 minutes of me building it, but she broke the pedal.
Oh, joy, the joy of
My
children.
I know, right? She was just like putting all of her body weight, and she's only like 39 pounds, but she was
Mm.
putting all of her body weight onto the pedal as she was playing it, and she's, leaning on the steering wheel at the same time when she got off, and I went to go play it, and the pedal wasn't working. Somehow she broke the analog on it.
Oh
I
man.
have I have no idea how she did it, but she did it from just putting her body weight into it. And
Yeah.
yeah, they're sensitive, but they're toys.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really at the end of the day what they are. They're still toys.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, for me, like, it's not like, oh, is this gonna be like the arcade? Like, no. To me, it's a collectible, and it's like a fun thing to have in my arcade space as a part of my collection. Like, I I really enjoy them just for what they are, and I'm not going to put these high expectations on it. If I think something's crappy, I'm going to say it's crappy. If I think something's good, I'm going to say it's good. I don't know if you saw, but I bought a Ki Pro, and
No?
yeah, and I reviewed that like when it came out. I think I was like one of two people that had one. And funny because nobody like talked about it, but I ripped that thing to shreds because I was like, here they are charging $1,000 for this thing. It doesn't even have real T molding on it. The joysticks, that the control panel should have been like the best part about it.
Right.
It should have been flawless.
Should have been hapsticks
And
or IL.
it was hapsticks, but it was like the most garbage production line of hapsticks I've ever touched in my life. And it was just, I mean, what if you have time, sometime, like, go back through my stuff
I'll
and
watch
watch
it.
that
Yeah, yeah,
review,
yeah.
because you see me physically going over like every aspect of the joysticks, and it's like, how could you screw this one thing up? So they're charging $1,000 for this. And again, the monitor was great, sure, but the speakers were mid, and it was Yamaha speakers. But you know what? When you put a crappy amp with good
Yep.
speakers, you know what they sound like? Shit.
Shit.
And then the joysticks were no good. So like everybody pretty much who got it was like, for the most part, I would say 90% of the people that I spoke with were like, yeah, I need to replace these joysticks. The other 10%, they weren't players. You know what I
Sounds like
mean?
you just John Tafford arcade one up.
I don't think that they were happy about it. But yeah, anyways, so it was subpar, dude. It was basically like, to me there was no difference between that and an XL. Like, if you're looking at Golden Tee and you're looking at that, it's essentially the same thing. The only difference is that they put a BOE monitor and better controls. And I'm like, really? That's what we're paying $1,000 for? If they would have had real T molding on it, and if they would have had good joysticks in it, and the marquee also, by the way, was crappy. Like, the print on it was crappy. I think it would have skewed the way that I saw it by quite a bit, probably. But the fact that they didn't do that, and then the joystick thing, like, that's what like really pushed me over the edge. I was like, there is no way, dude.
And that's the whole thing that people were talking about, is that you're supposed to get the better sticks with that one. That was the whole point of the $1,000.
Exact.
And the sticks are shit. I didn't even know that they released the Ki Pro. I found this out like 2 months ago that they actually did. I
Mhm.
didn't know anybody that had it. I didn't see anybody that had it. Sorry I didn't see your video. I didn't look for videos though either on the Ki Pro. I just never seen anybody post it in a group or in a Discord or anything like that. So I just thought that they discontinued it because of the backlash they got when they announced it like 3 weeks after the original Ki
You
pre-order.
you can still buy one.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, you can still
Well,
buy one.
and the thing is though, for $1,000, you can build your own.
Right. Yeah.
You can get,
Once you get up to that price point, especially with tax and everything,
yeah.
I mean, you're talking 1,100, close to $1,200, and then at that point, it is like, well, you might as well look at custom options. Let me see if I can switch views here and get our stream pulled up. Oh, look at that. It's the
Look at that.
the infinity stream. Okay. So, oh wait, why did I go there?
I can't see where you're going.
Hold on one second. I'm about to pull it up. um, OBS. Hello, friend. Oh, maybe. Sorry, guys. Bear with me just 1 second. Here it comes. Oh, where's Arcade 1-Up? Why is that not showing up in here?
They knew we were talking shit.
Blocked.
All right, we both got blocked.
Okay, here we go. Can you see that now?
Yeah, we can see it. I
Okay.
can see that.
All right, cool. So let's find KI Pro. Look at this. Look at this. And they better not sell it for less than $1,000 or I'll be pissed.
Oh, you know they are.
Even if it is garbage.
Yeah, you know they are. Because if you go directly to the site, you're always going to see the original price. It's when you go to the other retailers when we see it drop.
Oh, and the artwork was cut off.
What do you mean the artwork was cut off?
Like Spinal's arm was like cut off.
What?
Yeah.
That's shitty.
Hold on, let me see. Why?
You know, for $1,000, we should be expecting a quality cab for $1,000.
Yes.
You know, I put my cabs on sale when I'm building them for when they were at a price point of $1,200. I was putting them on sale for $1,000 for my lower end builds, and you were still getting good controls inside it and a 27-inch monitor.
Yeah.
And they're putting out this shitty ass thing for $1,000.
And the thing is, like, I got their Wheel of Fortune one because my significant other was like intrigued by it, and I was like, "Come on, seriously, this is the one that you finally."
Seriously?
And so I was like, "Okay, fine, like it's cool." But I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like it's not like, you know, some magical fantastic thing, but the build quality for it is actually decent. Like they used real T-molding, they use real switches in it, they use the light up plastic like arcade / gambling style buttons, and they have like all the lighting that goes behind the plexi overlay and stuff. Like it's kind of cool, it's kind of fun. Like I'm not gonna lie, but my point is just that
the one they're gonna put money into is the Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Like, how are they gonna put real T-molding on Wheel of Fortune, but they can't even do it on the KI Pro, like the one Pro machine that they make that is supposed to be like immaculate. But you can see it here. Look at his arm. It's like almost completely cut off.
I caught it when you were talking, and I was gonna say, so I was waiting for you to pause so I could be like, oh, his arm is cut off. It's right there.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried putting real T-molding on an arcade 1-Up? Have you ever tried slotting it?
No, oh God, no, because it'll just split it in half, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's hard. I tried because I've seen Bobby Vu did it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did. Well, he didn't do it in a 1-Up. It's when he was cloning the 1-Up machines, and
okay.
slotting it for T-molding, but the thickness was the same exact thickness on the arcade that he was building. So I'm like, I talked to him and he told me what bit to get. So I tried doing it. I did it. Obviously, I had a test cab, which I actually used my Rampage as a test cab for it. I fucked that up royally when I was trying to, because it's so thin.
Yeah.
I ended up using like super glue in certain areas to hold the wood back together because it was splitting the wood apart from doing the T-molding.
Yeah.
So if they're going to do T-molding on something like that, they probably should use a little bit of a thicker wood, like 3/4 inch instead of a 1/2 inch.
Yeah, I think that's what the Wheel of Fortune cab is.
It's a 3/4 inch.
It's not. I don't think it's 3/4. It looks thinner than like a standard arcade, but it's like not. It's definitely more than a 1/2 inch. I don't know, but anyways, it's definitely doable. That's my point. Like they can do this. Like they can produce something that has a higher quality to it. You know.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, but Biggie D says, what does he say? Someone offered me one of these for $400 brand new. I turned it down because I paid 150 for K. I would have took it for 400 though. For 400, and then I probably would have like just resold it or something. I don't know. But I mean, 400 is not bad. I think like if they would have charged 699 for that cab, it would have been okay. You
Yeah.
know,
For the Pro, yeah.
yeah, I think 699 would have been okay because it is essentially an XL. I mean, it's I don't know what else to say. The other thing is too is that I think a lot of people forget that because these are LCD panels that they're using for screens, like that's one of the reasons that these cabs don't have the depth of like an actual arcade cab. Like I hear people talk about the size and I'm like, well, bro, it's not going to have the depth of an arcade machine or of a an original coin op cabinet because it's using a freaking LCD monitor. Like why would you want all that extra space there when there's no need for it? You know what I mean?
Right. Right. The two players are big enough for two people to stand at and play with no issue really. It's when you get into the four-player cabs that it becomes a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, yeah. This control panel, by the way, was the proper size. Like as far as like the width of it, I think, or wait, yeah, the width of it was exactly like the same, pretty much as like the arcade control panel. So that was nice, but the length of it was, I think it was a little bit short by like maybe an inch and a half.
Right. I was actually when this came out and when it got announced, I threw up on my when I had my Facebook business page before I lost it.
Mm-hmm.
I threw up on there like, why the fuck would you? I literally said, why the fuck would you pay $1,000 for this when you can pay 1,300 for my two-player and you can get a 22-inch or a 27-inch screen, whichever size you want, for no difference in price and
Right.
better controls,
Right.
and probably play better with no lag. I don't know how the lag was or the gameplay was in
And
the
with the
KI.
artwork correctly positioned.
Yes, that too.
Yeah. Um but yeah, I mean it was just disappointing to say the least, you know, but check out the video sometime when you can so you can see what I'm talking about cuz it'll be interesting for you just from a technical perspective. But oh, you know what? We could just go here and see if they have their Wheel of Fortune cuz I could kind of show you from here. I wish I knew the exact size of the thing. The funny thing is, it looks cheaper in the pictures. Like it looks better in real life. But
It looks real chintzy.
they definitely skimped. See, it doesn't even look like it has T molding on it. It looks like
I bet you the original concept design is that, and they didn't have the T molding on it. Somebody probably realized that they can do it.
yeah, it could be. But all of these buttons have actual like American standard micro switches.
Oh shit!
Yeah, and it's like wired up pretty nice underneath actually. Like I was kind of actually impressed with that. And then the T molding, you know, the artwork is like the same standard as normal. But the T molding and the thicker wood on the sides definitely gives it a bit more of a premium feel, if you will. The one thing I was kind of like, what the F, was the marquee, because it's like their, you know, their old style marquees where it's the, what's it called? Where it's like the light and then it's just a
Okay.
sticker over it.
Yeah, it's just the LED with some plexi.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, you guys, like all of this nice work, you guys could have at least like done a molded, you know, plexi panel marquee, but whatever.
Maybe make it flash.
Yes. Yeah, like
Something.
with
Yeah.
the, yeah, because they, I mean, they did it everywhere else. So it was just, I was just kind of like, that's the one thing you're going to underwhelm me with, but whatever.
Somebody
Um,
was probably like, somebody's gonna have a seizure if we do that. Let's just make it.
they're like, we already have too many flashing lights. There's standards we have to meet.
Right?
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, as far as the rest of it goes, I would definitely say wait, has this been showing up on the screen?
Um. Yeah. No. Right now it's not. It's just the two of us.
Oh my god, what?
I know. I'm
Why?
just looking at YouTube right now. Hang on. Oh no, wait, no, it's on the screen now. My video was paused,
Oh,
so
okay.
I got my phone up too.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Somebody say something in the chat if you can't see what we're looking at.
Yeah, that's totally weird that it wasn't showing up, but all right, we'll go back here. Anyways,
So tell me what you got in your garage. So you got full sizes out there. I know you're working on some. You got Tekken. Are you a big Tekken fan or what?
I like Tekken.
You
I
like Tekken?
my my favorite Tekkens really are probably 1, 2, and Tag on PS2.
Okay.
And I mean, like, 3 was really good. Obviously, 3 was a step up, but I say Tag because that was like the bridge between 2 and 3, kind of, because Tag was basically like an upgraded version of 3, you know.
Right.
So the thing I liked about 3 was like the story. And as like the game continued, like, you know, I just got everyone that came out. I kind of don't like how they've gone with like this quirky like anime, like it's almost like kind of corny the way the storyline is, but you still had like the Kazuya and Heihachi Mishima thing going, so I really loved that part of it. But anyways, yes, so I love Tekken. Tekken's awesome. It's one of those iconic 3D fighters that, you know, really brought a lot of life into the fighting scene when it was technically kind of dying, you know.
Right. Right. Because all the time we had was just Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, and Tekken definitely did bring some new life. First, we had Virtual Fighter too, but
Yeah.
Tekken and Virtual Fighter came out I think right around the same time, and they were the competition with each other. But Tekken won that fight.
It was Virtua Fighter 1 kind of set the precedence, you know. And that was like just it was a very technical, not very technical, but it was a technical fighter. It was just very refined. It was like, and Tekken was kind of more like you could just like smash some buttons and do some combos, but if you really knew how to play, like, you could really like do some cool stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And so, but Tekken came out a year later, is what I was going to say. And so it kind of followed in suit. And I would say that Virtue Fighter was like the big inspiration for a lot of the 3D fighters that came after it.
The first time I played Tekken was PS1 Tekken when it came out. My buddy had a PS1, and him and I were always big into playing Mortal Kombat on Sega Genesis, and then he ended up getting Tekken for PlayStation 1, and his go-to guy was Law, and he was just whooping ass in Law,
Yeah.
and it was the first time we're seeing 3D fighting like that, too.
Yeah.
So that was really cool, yeah.
Yeah.
But Tekken 1's got a little place in my heart for on the PS1 for that. I never actually played it in an arcade.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
the arcade version was it was not like, well, it was the same like gameplay, I guess, as like the PS1 version,
hmm
but the PS1 version added like the story aspect into it and a couple other modes that made it just a little bit sweeter.
right.
Um, but what was I gonna say? Well, anyways, yeah. Oh, so I have the Tekken boards. So I have Tekken 1, 2, and then Tekken Tag are the three Tekken PCBs that I have. And once you get to Tekken 3 and Tekken Tag, those are System 12 boards, still run on JAMA, and like I can still use them like interchangeably with the System 11 boards. They're basically the same thing. They just use JVS if you want instead of only being able to use JAMA.
Right.
So the cool thing about that is that if I'm running like a Naomi setup, I could just literally unplug my Naomi and plug in the System 12 Tekken board and just play the game. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, so in my garage, to answer your question, that was really long-winded. But to answer your question, so I had not Need for Speed, Fast and Furious, and I brought that back to life and played that for a while, and then I sold it to someone who has an ice cream shop, so it would be like getting played, you know,
That's cool.
by people, yeah. And then Marvel vs. Capcom Duo is like probably one of, like, definitely my biggest passion project, and that one I got for 250, fully restored it, like, you know, sanded it down, bondo everything, like reconstructed some of it, and then I sold that to an actual arcade owner who has like a big FGC out where their local area is.
Nice.
And so that was awesome because I didn't think I was going to sell that one, but I think that I'm definitely going to be doing more of like the restoring and hanging out with it for a while, and then like ideally pushing it to a place like that, I think would be really cool because those places are really preserving, the whole arcade scene and stuff.
That's how it starts, man. That's how it starts. You're gonna get into it, and you're gonna get the itch, and you're like, all right, I did this one.
Oh,
Let's do the
well,
next
but
one.
I've been doing so Donkey Kong and Blastroids are the two that I'm keeping in my collection. Like I can't let go
Right.
of those. And Donkey Kong is 81, Blastroids is 88, and I have number 498 of 2000. And those two will stay with me unless like there's some imminent reason why I have to part with them. Um, but the other ones that I've gotten and let go of, I think three. I did a Big Red and San Francisco Rush 2040 or not 2049, The Rock.
Oh, love
Um,
that game.
and I actually made so they don't. I've never seen anybody who makes the artwork for it, and I recently actually uploaded my artwork to Clav because uh, there is no artwork for it and people ask about it and I'm like,
Right.
well, so I crafted a full complete set of artwork for that whole cabinet from scratch and was able to recreate it, which was a cool thing. But anyways,
Like
so
you did it. You like you photoshopped everything in together, and you made the actual artwork.
yeah,
Well, you
yeah,
didn't print it, but you put the file together to have it printed.
yes, correct.
See, ladies and gentlemen, this is a skill that a lot of other people don't have when it comes to restoring, building, or making a cab. What Jade is doing is something that she has over other people in the community that do builds that can't do that because they have to buy the artwork because they don't know how to draft it. You're a jack of all trades when it comes to the arcades. I do the same shit. I draft all my graphics. I had to learn how to draft the graphics. I taught myself how to do that.
Yeah,
So, I mean, you probably taught yourself how to do that too. That wasn't an easy thing.
right.
So, yeah, dude, kudos to you on that. See, this is why I fucking follow you, dude. You do some shit. I'm telling you, man.
Well, kudos to you as well. But yeah, no, I mean, same. Like it's definitely because when you see that, it's like not everybody has those capabilities or can like relate to doing stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely get it. But um, so it was anyways. It was cool because out of me doing that came that artwork, and then I was able to share it with the coin ops community. And a lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh, like this is so cool," because nobody has that artwork. Like it just doesn't exist for whatever reason.
Right.
And it was pretty close to what the original artwork looked like. And when I say pretty close, I mean the only differences would have been like minute things that like I just wasn't going to try and create because it wouldn't have looked right. It just looked better to keep it simple. Um, but it turned out really good. So I had two racing cabs that I've gotten rid of, and then the two upright cabs, which was Marvel vs. Capcom, and what was the other one? Oh, the Big Red, the Neo Geo Big Red. And the Neo Geo Big Red, I actually repainted that one and then put new T molding on it and new stickers on the side. And I did something with the coin door. And that was such a beautiful cab. My friend has it now. Um, so that's good. It's somewhere where I know where it is. But I have an HS5 Neo Geo that I restored, and that's
Nice.
in my garage. And the Tekken cab is still in my garage. And then I have a Project Cruisin' cab that's in there that I've just barely scratched the surface of. And then obviously the Donkey Kong and Blastroids. And that Blastroids I got from Las Vegas. So my friend Steve, who lives out there, found it because I was talking about it, and he's like, "Oh, here's one out here," and it was like, I think it was like 450 I got it for, but then I had to ship it, so
Shipping's not cheap.
it was
But
it
450 is not a bad price.
yeah, it wasn't bad. I think I paid like 250 actually. I
Is it a
just
sit down cruising or stand up?
no, not for the cruise and for the Blastroids.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
No, it's all good. But and that cab is like awkward. It's one of those like late 80s Atari cabs that has like the pedestal and then like the big box monitor style at the top. So,
Right.
but so yeah, does that answer does that answer your question about what I've got right now?
It does, yeah. But is that cruising cab though? Is it a sit down or a stand up?
Oh, stand up. Sorry, yeah, stand up.
Nice, nice.
Um, and
I'll
I,
never forget the first time I played that game, man. That game was fucking awesome to me.
yeah,
The first time I played it.
yeah,
Yeah. I played it at a bowling alley when I was 10 years old. It was great.
yeah. I think I was, God, how old was I when cruising came out? Was that 95? I don't know.
Yeah, it was 95.
We're probably pretty close. I think I was like 15 or something. But I remember playing it in the arcade and thinking like, oh, this is like the coolest racing game. And then when it came out on 64, was
Oh,
like, oh my god, like I had to get that Mario and I think Pilot Wings was like the first three games that I had. And like, I mean, cruising, I just played the shit out of it. Like,
yep. Yeah. My Cruising was my first Nintendo 64 game ever. My Nintendo 64 was my brother went to the military in 97
okay,
and he we had a little party, like a going away party for him, and my family gave him cards and shit. And the money he got in those cards, without telling me, he went out the next morning and bought me a Nintendo 64.
aw,
Yeah, and then he's like, we went to Blockbuster and we rented some games, and he's like, I'll get you a game later in the week, I promise, because he was leaving later in the week. He's like, I'll get you a game before I go, and I was 13. I think I was 13. I was either 12 or 13 at the time. I was 13. And before he left, he was like, "What game do you want?" And I was gonna get GoldenEye, but I seen Cruisin', and I'm like, I want Cruisin' because I loved that game. I loved playing it in the arcade, and I'm like, I played the shit out of that game when I got it. So that game was awesome. That is still one of my go-to Nintendo 64 games to play. I love Cruising USA.
that is like the sweetest story ever. Oh my gosh.
My
That's
brother's like 7 years older than me too, man. So we didn't have a dad growing up, and our dad pieced out on us a long time ago. But he was like always like my dad. I always looked up to him, and he always took care of me. And he took care of me before he left to go to the army. So that was awesome.
yeah, that is.
Yeah.
And you guys are still close now.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's just me and him. We
Good,
have no other siblings, so it's just him and I.
good.
So we're close, and he's got nieces, and I got my niece and nephew through him, and then I got my three kids. So we're real close.
Good.
Talk to him all the time. I
That's
know the
awesome.
shit out of him, like a little brother
That's
should.
awesome.
Yeah, of
Well, tell him I said thank you for your service.
course.
Um, yeah. So crazy though. Crazy. So the whole arcade thing, like where do you see yourself going with it like down the road? I mean, like personally, like where do you see what do you want to do, you know?
I see myself getting into a shop. And if I don't get into a shop, I will see myself knocking down my garage. My garage isn't attached, and it's not very big. I see myself knocking it down, moving it up, attaching it to my house, and rebuilding it as a two-story garage, and splitting it so I can work in the back and have like storage in the front. That's where I see myself going. I'm definitely growing. Sales have been better than last year's sales in 2022. I've already broken those sales
Wow.
recently, which is again amazing. If anybody's watching who's a customer, thank you so much for that. Um, so I see myself going. It's like always was kind of a 5-year plan when I started doing this as a full-time thing last year. That did by 5 years I would hope to be in a shop,
Mhm.
and I'm working to pick up local business. My national business is perfectly fine. National business is great, but after that 1 year where I stopped doing the arcade one-ups, my local business just kind of died off. I've only done 4 or 5 local arcades so far this year.
Okay.
Not a lot of people know about me, and again, I'm the only person in Buffalo building custom arcades. The only other company closest to me is out in Syracuse. So I just recorded my first radio commercial on Wednesday.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, and I got a 3-month contract with them, so it's going to run twice a night starting this Tuesday through Friday, between 7 to midnight, and it's going to run through the end of the year, and then I can re-sign my contract on a 3-month basis and keep going with it.
Dude, that's
Um,
badass.
yeah, and they actually let me go into the studio and use my voice and record it. If you go on my TikTok, the last TikTok video I did where it's the blue little video,
Mhm.
that's the first 5 seconds of my commercial. It's a 30-second commercial.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Okay.
yeah, so I was trying to work on a putting a video together with the sound,
Mhm.
personally, but I haven't finished it yet. I did a draft and a mock-up, and I know where I got to do some more edits to it and redo it. But I see myself. Hopefully, I'm in a shop. Hopefully, I can bring on a third person at some point. This is definitely a three-man operation right now. Um, if I just had a person who could do drives and shipping labels and maybe answering the emails during the daytime, like I have 33 emails I got to respond to right now. And
So
I'm like, their statuses, their questions, things like that, and it's hard for me to get to the emails right now because of how busy I am. I have 29 arcades in the queue,
good
and
God.
I've pumped out 14 since July.
Oh my God.
So
That's crazy.
I have seven racers in the garage right now, and I have two arcades built, and I have to do a video on one. I have a Golden State Warriors that is that is a Maximum Lizard. It's got a 32-inch Pixelcade marquee. It's got the RGB buttons with the controllers attached to it. Two arcade sticks, two Gunfire light guns, but they're the Namco Time Crisis guns.
Mm-hmm.
It's got two real Time Crisis pedals that's modified with Gunfire tech in it, with LED lights on it.
Wow.
And it's got the Xbox controllers, and it's got a 20 terabyte drive inside it. And it's 4K machine, running on a 4K 32-inch Samsung monitor with a 3060 graphic card. Um,
Wow.
it's mega.
That's beefy. Yeah.
That would be my version of what you can call a mega. Is what I think a mega is the internals that would make it into a mega machine.
Right.
The goal for that is supposed to be an end all. It's got 3 terabytes of open space on it, so you can still add Steam games to it and play like Mortal Kombat 1 if you want to buy it.
Have you seen Paradox arcades?
I think so.
Oh, dude,
Refresh my memory here on those.
they're super sick. They do like most of their stuff that I see is like very like synth waves kind of themed, but they do like these big like mega arcades that have really badass builds, and they have like retractable steering wheels, yokes, like they'll give you a whole kit that basically is this thing, and it like they have like light up T molding, and it's just very synthwave themed, but I mean they're just beastly. Like
Oh well, fuck them. Now I got to do this shit.
you really actually well, I'll pull up some of their stuff real quick, but first I'm going to put this link in the chat, and this is to his TikTok. So if you guys are on TikTok, check out his TikTok. He's got a lot of cool stuff there, everything from his own personal kiosks to some of his arcade cabs and the projects that he's got going on.
I've actually been using TikTok to make the preview videos for the cabs. So like when I'm showing off the graphics, I've been using TikTok to make the auto cut and the cap cut videos on those.
Okay.
So TikTok is really cool and really convenient to do that really fast when you can piece 3 videos together at once.
Yeah, heck
then,
yeah.
And then add music to it, obviously, as long as you don't get copyrighted.
Wait,
But
what?
yeah, so yeah, hopefully I'm in a shop. The problem with the shop idea is that because I've been pricing around just to see what my average would be, and it's a lease for any commercial property around here, whether it's a cargo bay garage door or like like 1,000 foot
Mm-hmm.
storefront. It's minimum $2,000 a month, and they want a 1 year contract for at least, no matter what, and it doesn't include anything.
But you
No
figure
gas, electric, or internet.
you figure if you get a place like that and you're managing it, I mean, like obviously you'll have to have like some sort of workforce, but I mean, if you're managing it and you're overseeing everything, like the amount of overhead that you're gonna have versus just you doing everything,
Right.
like is going to be significantly greater, which would mean that like it shouldn't be like too difficult to pay for a lease like that, right? Like I mean, like I'm just talking like long term, like if you were able to actually do that, like to
If I,
oversee things.
if I get there in sales, yeah. I figured in order for me to get to that point in sales, for me
Mm,
to afford to pay myself and then afford to pay somebody else, at least one more person, and then have that commercial lease, I need to be getting minimum 500,000 a year in sales, and I'm not even near that.
mm,
So I'm like right now I'm just under half of that. So
okay.
I think if I can pick up my local
That's
business,
still incredible, by the way.
Right, it really is, and that's where I was able to quit my job and go full time. And I think if I'm able to pick up the local business as much as I'm getting for national business, then I will be able to get there. Because if local business picks up, I have the potential to double the income or double the sales, which would put me right around $500,000 a year in sales.
Hmm.
So that would be exactly where I want to be and exactly how I want to do it. So fingers crossed, fingers crossed that the end of
Yeah.
the year is coming up, these commercials work out, and then I gotta get into some gaming cons. I'm trying to get into the local gaming
Well,
convention
I'm.
next year.
Yeah, that would be sick. I'm rooting for you. I mean, like,
Thank you.
yeah. No, I
A lot
mean,
of people are actually. So a lot of people are discovering me even more now than what they did before. So so these
well,
are the Paradox arcades, huh?
yeah. And by the way, when you're globally famous, just, remember me. Come back on my show sometime.
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah. No, I'll come back anytime and bullshit with you, dude. This is great.
Um,
We've been going for a while too. I'm loving this. I told
yes.
you we'd be talking.
So here's a couple. So this is in the light, but I mean, look at how huge it is. So you can see like, and those things they fold down so that they're like pretty much completely out of the way, and then they have like the pedals down there.
I was just gonna say that would be uncomfortable to play with the steering wheels right in front of you like that in front of player one. But if they fold down,
Yeah,
that's big, that obviously makes a difference there.
yeah, they fold down. So there's one in the light, and then here's what they look like. Like it's just it. I mean, like,
Nice.
and their builds are really good. And see, there you go. They're full screen, but their builds are really good. Like their hardware software builds, like they're like you, like they're very serious about it. Like they use high end stuff. Like they really take their time. I mean,
Right.
but their control panels are just insane.
So
Like
they got the RGB buttons on there is what they're using.
they have RGB buttons, but they're not just like some flimsy RGB buttons. Like they're actually so there's I think there's two that they use. Like I because there's the what's it called where they're like the Eclipse buttons.
Yeah.
And then so they have like the IL Eclipse buttons, and then they have like their own I think like custom
So you
buttons.
so you see how it's flipping around there with the colors?
Hmm.
Those are the gold leaf RGBs. Those are $7 a button.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those ain't cheap. Those are the best
They
buttons on the
they
market
do
you can buy.
not like those. So yeah, their cabs are like you're paying for what you get, but you are getting like really high quality stuff.
And that gun that he had, did you see it top sliding? That's a gun for IR.
Oh, was it?
They're the
Here's
only
another
company
one.
that makes it. Yeah,
Oh,
they're the only company that makes an aftermarket gun with a top slide on it. So they're using gun for IR on that cab, which is that damn code light gun is a $900 gun.
mm-hmm.
From Gun for IR it is at least. So, but yo, that's gorgeous. I wanted to know. So there's another company out there called Phantom Arcades I follow on Instagram, and
Uh-huh.
they have that square 19-inch sideways vertical marquee or whatever it is down there. I've wanted to know. I've been trying to figure out how the hell they're doing that because that is fucking cool.
I haven't seen that. But I'll have to check it out now that you're mentioning it.
Yeah, that's cool shit. Where they basically have two marquees on there. They have the top marquee, which is the LCD marquee, then they have the bottom one, which is definitely like a. It looks more like a 24-inch monitor sideways
Yeah.
vertical.
Yeah.
So, and then they're using that. Yeah, that's cool shit, man. That's
Yeah.
got to be what's the price on that thing? That's got to be at least eight,
Oh,
$9,000.
yeah, you're pretty close. I think more than that for like those really big ones. I mean, you're looking at like 15 probably.
Right?
And
Which
and
would make
that's
sense.
that's I think, and then their shipping is like white glove or whatever. But it's cuz it comes pre-built like
Right.
yours. And what was I going to say? The oh,
Fine.
so
I'll take
I had
like
hit him up about like a two-player build, and I was like, "Look, like if I wanted to get this from you guys, like basically, do you think you could like do anything to make the price work a little bit or adjust it? And I'll do like a review for you guys. So I would
right.
still obviously pay for it, but I was like, whatever. And they were like, yeah. And so they actually were like, I think I was in the 5,000 something range for a decked out two-player with like guns and everything, which is
Nice.
like really good. I mean, for that, it's like was a pretty good price because I think normally it would have cost closer to like 7 or maybe even 8 at the time. But I just wasn't in a position to do it. Like I ended up having like this crazy thing happen with my house, and so it kind of screwed everything up for a little while.
Dude, my sewer line collapsed in the front over the wintertime and it cost me $7,000.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like they had to come in with a backhoe and they dug up 25 feet from the house to the curb, and I got a big giant mound, and my kids are like, "Can we play on the mountain?" I'm like, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. That's what they call it, the mountain.
The mountain.
So I'm gonna throw like some gravestones on it for
Uh-huh.
Halloween and call it, here lies the graboids from Tremors.
Oh my god, that's
Yeah,
good.
because that's what it looks like. It looks like a graboid. You've seen
Yeah,
Tremors?
yeah, of
It looks
course.
like a graboid came through and just lifted up the mound of dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. And then what was it in the second one? Didn't they have like a arcade game, or was it the first one with graboids or whatever?
Probably it was the first one, probably. Yeah. Grab because it's the second one. I remember the second one. It was so cheesy. It was straight to
Yeah.
DVD. I remember watching it on Stars on cable TV
Oh,
back in the
it was
80s.
terrible. But
Yeah, and
you watched it for Bert though.
oh yeah, of course you do. Yeah, and what was it? They had it wasn't they had the underground graboids, but then they had the above ground graboids with the feet. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
all right, we're just evolving the graboids here.
yeah. We need money to make another movie. Come on.
Right.
But anyways, so we're gonna I guess we're gonna wrap it up here because holy cow, we've been going for almost 2 hours.
And I can keep talking.
I know, right? So we got about 9 minutes left. Chat, if you guys have any questions for Joel, please feel free to ask.
I did
Um,
see one from Arcade Junkie earlier that I didn't get to answer. He was asking about the drive. Is the 4K drive, my light gun 4K drive, 100% plug and play with Gunfire and Sinden? So here's a good topic, right? Plug and play. Nothing you get is exactly plug and play. There's pre-configurations. So you still have to configure your light gun, and you will still have to install drivers. Um, Out of the 226 games on my light gun drive, we have to manually configure 10 of those games. Otherwise, all the other games are pre-configured for plug and play experience with the guns, but we got to make adjustments. There's programs like the Mule Shooter that's on it that we have to set to the gun IDs so that those games will recognize it, so that we don't have to configure it manually in that game. So pre-configured is what I would basically call it, and it's almost a plug and play experience. But when you buy a drive, so if Arcade Junkie, if you buy a drive for me, I remote into your system, and I set that drive up on your computer with you, and I don't log out until it's running. And if I need to log in for a second day and get it going, then we get it going for a second day. But usually we don't need to do that. And that goes for any customer with the racing drive, the pinball drive, the light gun drive, 2 terabyte, 20 terabyte, 8 terabyte. I remote in and I provide the customer service to
that's
get
what you
that drive
yeah,
up and
that's
running.
what you call good customer service right there.
Well, the thing is with that, I know the drive better than you would, Jade.
Right.
So if you want the drive, you would probably sit there for a few hours trying to figure it out. I
Hmm.
know the drive and probably can get you up and running 20 to 30 minutes, maybe even an hour.
No, but
So,
that is like literally an incredible thing to do because I agree. It's like if somebody asks me for a piece of tech, like to send them a drive with something on it,
right,
like 90% of the time they're gonna call me and ask me like, hey, where's this at, or how do I do this? And like, as much as I can on the builds that I do, I have everything set up in a way to where if I clone the drive or I copy it, like the software is going to be as plug and play as possible, but
right,
there's always going to be like weird things like you have to install drivers on your PC that like aren't just going to install themselves or whatever.
exactly, exactly.
So I think that that's like really cool that you actually do that. There's another question here from Zero Cool, and it says, will you be updating your pinball drive anytime soon?
No, because I don't have to. It's got 448 tables on it, and it's more like a jump off point for customers. 448 tables is a lot of tables, but the customer would be responsible for just adding more tables. And I usually log in, and after I install the drive, I show the customers where to do that. So I don't plan on adding any more games to my pinball drive. And if you want to get VPX 10.8 on it, which I am going to actually download and add it to the drive, the problem is that for pinball you have to install it, like actually install Popper on every single PC. It just doesn't copy over. So after you install it, it's already set up then, and all the games are there, and it's ready to go with configuration. Or then you got to do configuration. But 10.8 is the most recent VPX that came out, and if I put it on there right now and I install it, or I run the install for Popper, it's going to overwrite it and make it whatever version that Popper's defaulted to. So 10.8 will be on the drive probably within the next week, for customers to just copy over and drop in. But otherwise, adding tables, I don't plan on adding any more tables at all. Customers would have to do that on their own, which, like I mentioned, I do show the customers what website to go to and how to download it, and then where the files are to add them in. Because pinball can get complicated.
What, as far as like, have you ever thought about doing or having somebody do like YouTube videos for you that are like tutorials for that kind of stuff, so that it like kind of mitigates or minimizes like you having to, you know, go in with everybody, unless it's like an absolute like okay, this is, there's something not working right or something.
I do that already, actually. Except instead of putting out a YouTube video, I put it on the drive. So there's
Oh, okay.
every single one of my drives has install videos. It's got a big folder that says instructions,
Oh, that's
and then
cool.
in that instructions folder has all the drivers that you need to download and install, and then it has the instruction videos on it, like
Mm-hmm.
step one, two, three, four, five. Like my Lunkin drive is a 6-step drive. Customers do that, and I put that in my email when I send out the drives. I send an email to the customers, and it says in there, if you like to install the drive yourself without scheduling an appointment, please follow the tutorial videos on the drive. Please contact me if you have any questions or anything. Usually 99% of the time, I usually get an email that said, "Hey, I tried. Can you help me?"
Yeah, yeah. Which I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's cool though. Like, it's nice that you have like detailed files. You know. Did you
Thank,
get
thank you, OBS Studio, for that.
did you did you get my Terminator reference there?
Yeah, I did.
Oh God. We're old. Uh, but
We're
anyways,
retro.
yeah.
That's what we are. We're
That's
retro.
that's where we're gonna start. Our generation should just call ourselves like, I'm not old, dude. I'm retro.
Right.
Get out of here. Um, let's see. Just stop by to say hi before I start
Rascal.
streaming. Hey, what's up, Rascal?
Do you
Thanks for
watch him? I
stopping
love
by.
watching Rascal.
I do. But yeah. Speaking of which, so it is 9 o'clock, and Joel, I just want to thank you for taking the time to come on here. It was really fun having you, and I mean, yeah, we could easily probably talk for hours more, right? Um,
Absolutely.
but I really appreciate it. If do you have anything that you want to like mention or shout out before we cut out?
Shout out to you for bringing me on. This was a pleasure, and a pleasure to finally like have a one-on-one and talk to you. This was really cool. We've been tagging each other for a while on TikTok, and we've been, in videos and whatnot too on YouTube. And this was really fucking awesome to finally do this. This was really cool, man. So I
Ditto.
was really excited to do this when you asked me, and yeah, thanks, man. Just thanks. Thank you so
Ditto.
much.
You're
I,
welcome.
I I hope you bring me back someday, and yeah, we can talk for another 2 hours if we do. All
Dude,
right.
anytime you're welcome. Anytime.
All right.
And for everybody else for chat, thanks for hanging out and being here. And you guys have a safe weekend. All right, and remember to hug your loved ones and all that good stuff. All right, and until next time,
Go
I'll
Bills.
I'll see I'll see you guys then.
See you guys.